Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association, and today we're joined by North Carolina Sportscaster of the Year, Adam Gould. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Honored, actually. Kind of flabbergasted by it all.
Well, first off, Adam, congratulations on your award. I want to ask you first off, what brought you back into the industry way back when? What brought you in here?
No other thing I wanted to do. I graduated from the University of Maryland in 1988 and thought I was maybe gonna go to law school, and then kind of just decided in the summer to kind of piece together some part-time gigs in radio, and it led to a full-time job at a major network. And it was just better than working. I mean, as a sports fan, just to spend all of your day dealing with sports seems like more fun than anything else I could have done. Plus, no studying.
Sure.
I was all about it. So, I actually when I got to Maryland, I was going to go pre-law. And I was down the summer before my freshman year at orientation when you're choosing your classes and all of that. And we were having lunch on day one at the South Dining Hall, and our tour guide, if you will, said, "Hey, right above us is the campus radio station of an FM music station and an AM news talk sports station. So if you're ever interested in that, here's where it is." And I'm like, I was a radio kid growing up. I did the whole transistor underneath my pillow as a kid, listening to Marv Albert. And I thought, well, it'd just be fun to just play around in it. And because why not? I mean, it's something I liked growing up. And
Sure.
So I ended up spending 4 years doing stuff for the student station. And while I didn't think that was going to be a career, it was fun. So I thought, the summer after I graduate, let's have some more fun. And then if I have to do something else, I'll do something else. And it just worked out. So I got very, 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 very lucky.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. And Adam, so this is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. What does it mean to you?
I try not to think too much about what these types of things mean. I mean, it's not the first award I've gotten. I think it's the first one that I look at, though, and I don't mean to disparage some of the other honors I've received, but it's the first one I look at and go, all right, this is a vote from your peers, and that's different. Like I've won Independent Weekly awards. I've won, I've been on, Talkers magazine lists, Radio Inc. magazine lists, Barrett Sports Media lists. I've been on those lists for 20 years. And so all of those carry some weight. I don't think any of them carry the same weight as NSMA. I could joke and say what took so long, but I'm just that whatever. So because it's a vote of your peers, I think it matters. I also think it has an impact that my reach is bigger than it used to be, in that you can hear me in Wilmington and Greensboro and Asheville and Roanoke Rapids, when I was for 20 years just in Raleigh. Not that that's bad. There are some positives to simply being a local host, some drawbacks necessarily, so to an extent of having the scope widen, but so it's cool. I think, again, the vote of your peers matters.
And can you tell us a little bit about the work you do in radio, Adam? How do you use the listeners and the audience, and just the location that you're in to then just connect all three and really just bring out the best in yourself there?
This is the way I view what I do. And this is the way I've always looked at it. And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know, really don't. But this is what has worked for me. And I'm doing this. We're actually in year 25. It's not my 25th anniversary, but this is the 25th year that I have been doing this. I started in basically March of 1998 here. I mean, I worked in Baltimore and Washington, but not as a talk show host per se, although I have some experience before this. I've always thought that I'm going to talk about the things that interest me. I'm going to basically just be me, use my personality, and have fun.
Sure.
And if I am having fun, I am going to assume that the listeners are having fun. I don't even ask the listeners to actively participate. We don't take a lot of phone calls at all. It's not the driving force. It hasn't been the driving force out of anything I've done for like the last almost 10 years. We've really stopped taking phone calls, which has been, I had a conversation with a pretty significant New York City PD and said, why don't you take phone calls? I said, because I don't. He goes, wouldn't your show be better if you took phone calls? I'm like, maybe, but the show's been successful without it. And frankly, I think we can do better, more compelling stuff without it. But I'm not saying that I'm right. I could be wrong. It could be lazy on my part to not take phone calls. Sometimes we do, and we like to have fun with it. But it's usually a lighthearted thing and not a serious topic. I'm not going to, Joe and Clayton, what do you want to talk about? We're not doing that. We're very targeted. We talk about this topic at this time and this topic at this time. But I've always just thought, let's talk about the things that I want to talk about and make fun of them. If it's a serious topic, we'll talk about it. I don't shy away from anything, except maybe on Fridays. You like to keep it light on Friday. And as long as we have a good time, I feel like everybody will have a good time. So it's basically, I've always looked at this job as I get to go in and just be me for show at one point was 4 hours, and we're done. That's good. Let's move on to the next. So that's just kind of the way I've looked at it. Whether or not that's good for everybody, everybody's got to find out what works for them.
Let me ask you this, Adam. You spoke about Marv Albert earlier, kind of being one of the main forces in you getting into radio. Who else, were guys you looked up to, other sportscasters growing up? Who were some of your favorites? I
was really just using Marv as an example of me with a transistor radio listening to Knicks games or Rangers games as a kid. I wasn't even a Rangers fan. I was a Knicks fan as a kid. I was more of an Islanders fan in terms of hockey. I definitely was. I was an Islanders fan. I was not a Rangers fan at all. But my biggest influences, and they're not even influences because I didn't ever think that I would be them, but just the broadcasters I grew up listening to and loving were Lindsey Nelson, who was the Mets broadcaster through my youth, and Bob Murphy, who Nelson had left the Mets long before their 86 World Series title. Murphy was still doing the Mets in 86. Marty Glickman, who is a legend and did Jets games when I was a kid. I was a huge Jets fan. But I was also a kind of a morning radio fan. So, I'm dating myself here, but as a kid, on WNEW in New York, Ted Brown was the morning show host. And it was, it was basically a funny show. But I also grew up listening to Don Imus and Howard Stern when he was on in the afternoon on WNBC. This is before the Sirius thing happened. So it really spanned different genres. It was, regular terrestrial, morning radio, but also play-by-play.
Wow, that's really interesting, Adam. And I wanted to ask you too, how much did the radio landscape change with COVID, if anything at all? I know, being that it's virtual, you guys kind of still kept that entity. How much did it change for you personally with your work?
I couldn't let it change what I did. That's the thing. You just had to plug on. There are two elements to this. The first element is that I don't know what the data says about how many listeners are in the car, right? I don't know what the exact data is. I know in my mind, I've always thought that the overwhelming majority, 85% of your audience are driving. So for a year, we didn't drive. People stayed home. So, and we know from just, ratings numbers, gosh, everything plummeted. So you had to just do your thing. Maybe this is where it helps to not have to not take calls, right? Because we weren't relying on people in their cars. Now, people did increase their online listening. We know this from data too, but it will never make up for the captive audience of somebody in their car sitting at a traffic light. So there's that. There's that. I think, kind of on an island among people in my profession, and I saw people write about this and talk about it. I enjoyed the differing conversations that you had to have. I enjoyed getting into this is what the pandemic has done to sports conversations. And I think that if you do this job correctly, if you do this job for any length of time, you see moments of, say, we'll just call them moments of crisis. And it forces you to be better and to use your brain more. I saw so many people write and in interviews talk about how, oh man, I'm glad I'm not doing this now. And I think that is the worst possible thing. You have no respect for your audience. Oh man, I'm glad I don't have to be on the radio now. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the time where your audience needs you. If you care about them, and I do care about them, even though I decide I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I think you want to be there for them, and you want to make, whatever isn't going on, you want to make them care about it. Not the absence of it, but I just think that this is the time where we have to do our jobs better. And I kind of got energized by that, on top of the fact that we just passed the 2-year anniversary of this show. I mean, I was on Afternoon Drive in Raleigh basically for 20 years. And we had just started this show the week before the shutdown. Seriously, the week before the shutdown.
Wow.
And everything changed. Like, okay, everybody's home now. And who knows how long we're going to be home. And so brand new audience, a total nightmare. But I think it worked. I think we made it work. And I was proud that we persevered through all of it. And again, I just think that you owe it. I mean, we actually have a duty to the public. We have to serve the public. And if that isn't something that excites you, then you shouldn't be in this job.
No, I really like the way you put it, especially just stepping up at a time of crisis and being that kind of outlet. And we've heard that from a lot of our winners, about particularly those in news, saying, hey, I got to think more out of the box. How do I, dig in my toolkit now and find other ways to bring my audience, bring my listeners into the situation a little bit more. And then just go out and find more of those stories as well, is what we've heard a lot. Well, last question for you, Adam, and thanks so much again for your time today. Well, what advice do you have for maybe some sportscasters looking to get into the industry now, maybe trying to get into radio as well?
Well, radio is kind of a narrowing field, so it's super competitive. I would say that the compensation, especially at the early stages, is not great. Even in the later stages is not necessarily great. If you want to get in, though, it's all about a personality. Obviously, you have to have a depth of knowledge, right? No matter what the subject is, news, music, whatever it is, you have to have a depth of knowledge. The broadcasting skill is the least important part. I don't consider myself a good broadcaster. I mean, good. I don't consider myself a great broadcaster. Our show is a little bit raw at times for, we make tons of mistakes on the air, tons. Just I make a mistake, producer makes whatever. It's whatever. It's just, it's all about how you present yourself. That's it. It's all about you, the person. And but again, there's so many different parts of radio. If you want to be a straight newscaster or a straight sportscaster, that's very different than it is about the broadcaster. But if you want to host a talk show, I always thought that talk show was good because I had a terrible voice. I didn't have a radio voice. I couldn't get, I mean, I did some network sportscasts earlier in my career, but I was always better when I was fighting back a major cold because it would drop my voice 2 octaves. I actually got my first job while sick because my voice, I sounded like I had gravel in my throat. And the guy who hired me was like, "Oh yeah, look at you." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm sick as a dog." But it's to do what I do, it's 75% personality and being entertaining and having a sense of humor and not taking yourself too seriously. And so that's really what it is. But my advice is, get an area of expertise, write. Always, I love to write. It helps everything. And podcasting is the best way to get some experience being behind a microphone. I do a podcast. I encourage anybody who wants to get in it to figure out some things they really want to talk about. And even if you got 5 people listening, you're getting reps. You are putting yourself through reps. And I wish everybody good luck. I'm available, by the way, if anybody wants to reach out with personal questions.
I love that. Adam, thank you so much for coming on today, our 2021 North Carolina Sportscaster of the Year. Look forward to seeing you in Winston-Salem this summer, and congratulations again on your award.
Jake, thank you very much. Anytime.